I hope you're also enjoying or coming off enjoying a great break, and you're feeling energized and optimistic about what 2022 will bring. And I know that's a little bit of a challenge, but I can tell you I am excited, and I hope you are too. As is custom for the beginning of these presentations, I like to take an opportunity to identify and acknowledge some of our VIP attendees. These folks have told me that well, I've given them the opportunity. They would not like to take an opportunity to speak, but I do insist on calling them out because they are our leaders. In attendance today, we have our incoming chair of our board, Roxanne McDonald. We have our outgoing chair, Jim Thorpe. And we have two trustees, Irene Watts and Mary Petlishkoff, who, as you know, did serve as chair early in my tenure. I appreciate you all attending, and I hope that you enjoy this presentation and are as excited as I am to help this college move forward. To my colleagues and teammates here, I do want to say thank you for being part of this meeting. I know that many of you know how much I prefer to hold these meetings in person. I'll just say this, I hope that our next State of the College will be able to be in person. During the initial part of this event, I am going to close the chat so that all of us, including me, can focus on these important topics. And I'm going to try to move back and forth between a PowerPoint, which I know those of you who are my colleagues in the classroom or in the virtual classroom have a lot of experience with, and I hope to be able to live up to your standards on toggling back and forth like I know you are doing every day, or at least very soon every day. But if you have questions, and you ordinarily really like those in the chat, I'm going to ask you for a little indulgence, and please hold your questions until the end of this presentation, and feel free to do the hand raise feature, and either myself or Rhonda will call on you to have a discussion at the end of this presentation. Now, before I get into the main topics of this meeting, I think some of you may wonder, why, Russ, did you say you were going to put out a statement at the end of the year about the new year? And you didn't. And that's true. And I wanted to explain why I didn't. And candidly, 2021 ended on a very difficult note for many of us, including me. We lost two teammates in December. I want to talk a bit about that. Tamika Hister was an admissions associate, and she sadly passed away on December 11th. And then, of course, even more recently, John McDonald, the president of AFT Local 1650 and a longtime English instructor, died on December 30. Tamika was honored at a candlelight vigil on our campus on December 17th. Now, this event was sponsored by the Support Staff Association and SSA President Leslie Winless. Tamika was remembered as a dedicated friend to those who knew her and a devoted mother and daughter. I was able to participate in this event to honor Tamika, along with many of you here on our campus. At that event, Vice President Reginald Best and I shared that the HFC Foundation will sponsor a scholarship in Tamika's name this year. I appreciate all of you who helped us grieve together that evening. I want to express my condolences to all of Tamika's teammates. Tamika will be well remembered by all of you and the college. John McDonald was a close colleague to me from the very moment I arrived on this campus. I know he was a close colleague to so many of you all, and so many who have served this institution and now retired. That is the case because for it is over 5 decades, this man gave service and was a student and a leader to our institution. And to have his loss is simply tragic. I want to share a couple comments about John, but I also encourage you to see my note to the entire campus last week. John really helps me personally. When I started at this institution, he put his hand out figuratively and physically to help me understand the history of the institution. He helped me understand how important our faculty were and are. And he helped me engage with the community. I'll talk a little bit later in this presentation about how much we rely on citizens of Dearborn to help us operate this college. And one way is through a millage. And President McDonald led the AFT 1650 to support us in seeking political support for our institution in the form of real tax dollars. He helped me, he helped us, and he did that on his own. Now, he used the support that faculty gave to the Federation. But truthfully, in that campaign, it was John McDonald who helped me and the college show our value to our community, and it was only him who could have accomplished that. Also, he was just clearly dedicated for his entire professional life to Henry Ford College. No one can question that, and everyone recognized it. It was truly his passion. When you see someone who is as passionate about Henry Ford College as John McDonald was, you can't do anything but be proud of being associated with Henry Ford College and be sad that he is no longer with us. I look forward to a continued strong relationship with the members of John McDonald's local, the local 1650 of AFT, and its executive board, including acting President Jeff Morford and Vice President Eric Rader, both of whom I've communicated with very recently. And I've communicated that my office will provide any support we can as your local makes this very difficult transition. I've also spoken or communicated with President McDonald's wife, and I've also offered the college's support in what she is dealing with in a difficult transition. Next week, we will publish a memorial webpage honoring President McDonald's life. This webpage will feature comments that you have sent to us. The form to submit comments is on our employee news website, and I encourage you to make use of it. We recently received information about a memorial celebration of John's life, which is scheduled for Sunday, January 16 at 1 p.m. Now, don't worry, you don't need to scribble that down quickly because you're invited to attend in person or virtually, and you can find the details of that event on our website. As we usually do, I want to go through the names of new teammates that we have added since our August meeting. I will not read all the names, but we have 27 new employees. I hope you will help me in welcoming these individuals as our teammates and support them in their new roles at the college. You can read about many of them in our new Get to Know series on the employee news website. Congratulations to Connie Ashfikwa, who achieved tenure, and our 7 teammates who retired at the end of the year. One of our retirees is Susan Chunkweiler, who was the Dean of the School of Health and Human Services. I spoke about Susan at the December board meeting, and I am one of many who will miss her leadership and friendship. And on that front, I want to report to you that Vice President Nealon has appointed Cindy Scheuer to serve as interim dean of the School of HHS. Cindy has been serving as Associate Dean of the school, and I share Dr. Nealon's confidence that she will do a great job in this new role. Cindy will be supported by Trina Moore, the nursing faculty member, and Sue Jabara, a radiography faculty member. The faculty of HHS will decide later this month whether they want to elect an interim associate dean for the school. I ask all of you to join me in supporting Cindy, Trina, and Sue in leading the School of Health and Human Services. Now, I want to give you brief updates on 4 topics and then share some thoughts about Henry Ford College as a community. And I'll ask you to start thinking about that right now. What does it mean that we're a community? Let's talk about that after some updates. All these topics are related to our successful future together. Now, it wouldn't be a State of the College unless I gave you your daily information about enrollment. And as of today, we have enrolled a little more than 92,000 credit hours for the winter semester. We're working toward our winter goal of a little bit more than 104,000 credit hours. Many teams across campus have been working extremely hard to get students enrolled and ready for the successful winter 2022 semester. This Saturday, January 8th, will be Cyber Services Saturday, which provides personalized help for all enrollment needs. Please check the HFC homepage for information about this event, and please share it with your networks. You know, our classes begin Monday, January 10th, and we're trying to enroll as many as we can going into that week. Our enrollment is lower than it has been since the beginning of the pandemic. Now, there are many reasons for this, and I've discussed many of them with you at these past meetings. I want to say thank you to everyone who works so hard every day to recruit, enroll, teach, and retain students. But please do remember, 52% of our operating revenue comes from enrollment. And as a result, we need to increase and stabilize our enrollment in the next 18 months. Some of the initiatives from our new strategic plan will help us address this enrollment question, both for new students and returning students. And I look forward to sharing a little bit more details about that in a few minutes. Before I do that, I want to talk to you a bit about returning to campus. These two photos show our main campus on the top and our nursing building and the MTech building on the East Campus. In late December, I sent a message to you letting you know that we were going to continue our current practice of allowing vice presidents to make decisions about our teammates working on campus or in hybrid formats until the end of January. We have received many requests for remote work through the winter semester. Now, we will consider each of these requests in light of what is best for serving students and our community, as well as all of you. I ask for your patience and your grace as we make these decisions. They're hard decisions, and I know because of that, we cannot please everyone. Sometimes we may have to decline your requests. I want you to know that I am personally reviewing every request and that I am taking them very seriously. Every employee, including me, is required to request alternative work modalities if that's what the employee requests. And for the record, I'll be on campus full time, as I was in 2021, and I'll be moving around our campuses. I hope I get the chance to visit with all of you who are working on our campuses. And while you are thinking about returning to campus, I invite you to review the dozens of efforts that we have made to help our campuses be as safe as possible. These are on our Safety First website, and there's a link on this this slide. We are also paying close attention to ongoing guidance and mandates from the government. The federal OSHA mandates mandates were the reason we required vaccination reporting for all employees in December. These mandates are also the reason we will begin weekly required COVID tests for employees who have not provided proof of vaccination. The date for us to begin requiring these weekly tests was originally planned for January, but as you've probably read, the federal government has pushed back this date until February. We will follow that timeline unless ongoing litigation changes that deadline or the mandate. Later this month, I will provide with you specific date and information about the tests and how they are going to be accomplished. The next topic I want to talk to you about is something I want to just speak to you face to face as much as possible in this method. And that's with the work we're doing on DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. For the past 18 months, teams at the college have been working on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and trying to plan and improve upon that. We've accomplished a lot since our June 2020 town hall. In 2021, many of you participated in our climate survey and focus groups. Those results were shared with you and can be found on our employee portal under the President's Messages. Recently, a group of teammates led by Tracy Davis, Assistant Director of Performance Development and Engagement, has developed a new Advancing Belonging, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity talent management strategy for the college. I know that's a mouthful, and you'll probably hear me refer to it in the future as the talent management strategy for the college. We have reviewed this strategy with our union leaders at our college and the Board of Trustees. And I'm glad to report that this strategy is currently in effect and is already guiding our efforts in hiring and supporting teammates who will advance our commitment to an environment of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for everyone at the college. We will share this strategy with you later this month, and you will see these same things are a centerpiece of our new strategic plan. I'm also pleased to be working with the Human Resources Department to provide college-wide DEI training, and I'm very hopeful we can accomplish that this semester, but I'm committed to getting it accomplished and implemented this year. Let me go back now to the PowerPoint and show you a list of people I'm very proud of. That is the list of people who took part in strategic planning. I hope you've been able to learn about our proposed strategic plan. You may have seen it at our December 1 forum or our December 13th presentation to the Board of Trustees, or by visiting our strategic planning website at hfcc.edu. The strategic planning process has been thorough and fast, and we did it in the last, truly, 2.5 months. I want to thank every member of the strategic planning team for their many hours that they devoted to meetings and research, reading, and drafting our proposed plan. This was a heavy lift, and I could not be more proud of these teammates who worked so hard to help set this college's course for the next 2 to 3 years. In the event that you haven't seen the details yet, I do want to do a very quick summary of the great work this team put together and presented to the board. First, I want to give you a picture, and literally a picture, of what this plan hopes to accomplish. The overall theme is ABIDE, which is an acronym standing for Advancing Belonging, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. And this plan includes 4 priorities. The first priority is access. HFC will increase enrollment and improve college readiness, especially for underrepresented and historically underserved student population. We have 2 goals for this access priority. 1, increase enrollment of Black African American students by 25% and double the enrollment of Hispanic students within 2 years. Second, increase enrollment of underrepresented student population in programs leading to high opportunity outcomes, especially in STEAM, health science, and skilled trades. The next priority is priority number 2, which is retention. HFC will achieve improved and equitable retention rates for all students through proactive student-focused supports and intervention programs. Like the first priority, this priority has 2 goals. 1, increase the percentage of first-time, full-time students who earn at least 24 credits in their first year from 52% to 60%, meaning those students who are here full-time are getting on path to succeed, whether it be transfer or graduate. And increase the rate of part-time students who earn at least 15 credits in their first year from 10% to 25%, because we know those students who earn more credits have better outcomes. The second goal here is to decrease the percentage of students who don't have a successful experience in college-level gateway courses. We want to decrease that amount by 15% across all student populations. The next priority is focusing on completion, and that is that HFC will increase credential attainment and close completion equity gaps across student populations. And I know you've heard this before, but I want to reiterate, we cannot allow the reality that exists today that people of different races have different outcome potentials here. We have to close that equity gap. And the completion goals here are increase the total number of certificates and degrees awarded by 20% over 2 years, while raising the institutional graduation rate towards 15%. You see me stumbling over a lot of these numbers, and you may wonder, well, why is it so detailed? The reason these goals are so detailed is because they are what we have to hold ourselves to meet our goal of becoming student successful, and to show our community that, which is the second goal on this priority. Reduce the time to credential attainment while decreasing the overall number of excess credits students complete by 20%. We want students to not waste any of their time here on campus. The fourth priority is transfer. HFC will achieve improved and equitable results for all students regarding successful and seamless transfer to either advanced study or a career. And like all the other priorities, this priority has two goals. One, increase the number of transfers to four-year colleges and universities within 3 years of starting at HFC by 20%. That's a big jump, but I think we can do it. We're definitely going to try. And two, increase the percentage of students completing an associate degree or other credential at HFC before transferring to another four-year college or university. We're going to try and move that from 35% to 45%. You need to know that this plan, by design, is entirely focused on student success. It aims to make Henry Ford College the leading institution across our region and hopefully beyond. With this plan, we can earn the right to call ourselves the region's best college by focusing on what the entire region is focusing on, and that is student success. If we can become the best on access, retention, completion, and transfer for all students, no matter their background, we will be the best institution. And more importantly, we will be accomplishing what drives and inspires you, helping students to a better life. We presented this plan to you in early December and asked for your feedback, and I was grateful for it. Then we presented it to the Board of Trustees in December. The trustees will vote on this plan at their January 18 meeting. And if they direct us to move forward with this plan, I will begin reporting out next steps and implementation strategy. I know that you are here to make a difference in student lives. That's why I expect and am hopeful you'll be supportive of this strategic plan towards student success. And I know that that difference in students' lives is what inspires you to work so hard. I know this because I see it in you and because it's what drives me. We are already doing great work supporting students, and this plan will push us to achieve even better outcomes. I want to share a few student success stories to just give you another glimpse of what we can accomplish if we grow these stories. And then I'll move on to the final comments of my presentation. In December, we asked faculty to share stories of student success. And before I share some of those that we received, I want to remind you, please remember, this is a part of an ongoing strategy to collect and showcase student success stories. So please, send me these stories. Send them to Vice President DeLong, or both of us, at really any time, for any student that you see as a wonderful student success story, and those students that you help accomplish better lives. There are three stories I want to share with you that came in over the last 3 weeks. The first story comes from faculty member Liz Hoffman in the medical assistant program. The student's name is Melinda Litwalk. Melinda did what is sometimes called ghosting. She was facing challenges and she simply dropped out without a warning. Liz would not give up on her. So she reached out to her dean and the registrar, and they provided the help for Melinda to re-enroll and succeed. Melinda is now preparing to graduate from her program in this spring. She wrote a heartfelt thank you note to Liz at the end of the semester. This work changed Melinda's life, and I know that it goes on all over our campus. Thank you, Liz, for helping Melinda. And thank you to everyone who goes that extra mile to help students every day. The next two stories come from Pre-Education Program Director Carolyn Casal. Carolyn tells us about Chelsea Gore, who overcame health and personal issues. Chelsea succeeded in 2 HFC classes while working full-time and completing her teaching credentials. Carolyn also shares that Amal Harara is a model of inspiration. Amal is a mother who works full-time in education and is a top student in pre-education. And if she's like any of the mothers I know, that's a full-time job also. Thank you, Carolyn, for supporting these students. They have a chance to become great teachers who will influence the next generation of students. The next student success story comes from my friend Betsy Cohn. She shared an inspiring story of Isis Hank. Isis was a first-generation Hmong American whose family expected her to join the family business. Isis came to HFC as an uncertain student. She gained confidence, earned A's, and joined the honors program. Then she transferred to Wayne State, where she is now completing her bachelor's degree in engineering. She is applying to the master's program and has a very bright future ahead of her. Betsy says the world should be full of people like Isis. Well, truthfully, Betsy, I think you're right. But I also want to say thank you to you and your colleagues in the previous stories, because you all are making a difference. And I wish and hope that we can continue to grow these stories. And I know we can with your help, Betsy. The last story comes in an interesting story about creating the expectation of success. One of our current marketing campaigns says, quote, "Your future starts January 10th. This advertisement is in many places, and it's really trying to say we can come out of this pandemic and begin anew. An incoming student, Huda Habib, saw the ad on Facebook and captured her attention, and she wrote, "My future starts January 10th. I love the title. It motivates me." Well, Huda is placing her future in our hands. Next week, she and thousands of other students will be joining us to start working toward their life goals. I hope all of you are as inspired as I am to help them build great lives. Now, let me again speak to you face to face as I address the last item for this presentation. And it is Henry Ford College as a community. As we think about how we can make this kind of difference in more students' lives, we have to talk about an important topic. And that topic is us. What it means to be a community college that truly transforms lives and builds better futures. None of us does this work alone. Yet, in so many ways, the pandemic of the last 2 years has pulled us apart. Even the language we use shows this. Remote work, that phrase tells a story. If you come to our campuses, you will notice that there are far fewer people than there were in early 2020. Some of this is due to the high percentage of online classes and our declining enrollment. And the online courses is a necessary thing at this point, based on the status of the pandemic. And we'll keep working together to serve students and be safe. That balance, to serve students and be safe, is a difficult balance, but in striking it, we have accomplished so much together. We have continued to serve students and each other. We have advanced important initiatives and projects, some of which I've discussed already today. And we have endured many difficulties. We have been working hard to sustain our teamwork, and we have made progress through this difficult time. That struggle and that progress will serve us well as we move into the future together. That future will have new challenges that we will take on as a team and that we will grow through as a team. Let me focus you on one of those challenges. It'll be the transition back to being a community. Now, what do I mean about transitioning back to being a community? You know, our students see us. Our community sees us. Our Dearborn community is responsible, in fact, for choosing to fund more than 16% of our annual budget. Now, they don't have to do that. They do not have to provide this funding. As I mentioned about John McDonald's great work, we have traditionally enjoyed the support in millage campaigns. But the community has shown changing attitudes and more scrutiny on how public services are going to be provided. Just in the last 2 years, the community has voted down 2 millages for public institutions. It would be naive for us to think our physical presence is not important to them, especially when most public institutions in our community are open with employees serving citizens in person. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of us need to be fully on campus today. Omicron is very active in our community right now, but that will diminish. And I'm asking for your help as we start coming back together as a community. I know this can be a difficult thing to contemplate. We have been through a difficult, scary time, and we will keep making gradual moves to a return to a community. But it is that, our community, which we must return to. So let's talk about the importance of being together as a community college. Being together is powerful. There is true benefit to our teams and our students and our community in the connections that take place when people are together. For example, we celebrate together and grieve together as families and friends. In 2020, many families did not gather together for their holiday celebrations. And we saw that there was a loss in that. Frankly, Zoom just didn't cut it. This year, many of us spent part of the last 2 weeks and in other times during 2021 together with those who are most important to us. We saw that on campus. Just last fall, our strategic planning team met twice a week in person with intention to meet in person. That team created a college-wide plan in less than 8 weeks. This plan is concise and focused with measurable goals. It is a significant improvement from previous strategic plans, and I have to tell you, as a member of that team, I do not believe we could have accomplished that consensus plan with campus approval if we were not physically together to build it. My team, the cabinet, has been meeting in person for months. Many of you have been working on campus or partially on campus for the benefit of being together as a team. These teams of people gathering in person are essential to helping us be successful in the competitive landscape. Yes, the competitive landscape of higher education. That's a difficult fact, but it is a fact. Higher education is increasingly competitive. Students, parents, and communities are watching and comparing what we do and how we perform. The comparisons are open to the public. You can do them yourself. In fact, I invite you to do them on graduation rates, enrollment rates, retention rates, and costs. We can advance our college and be successful in this competition through coming back to what has always made HFC great: education in a supportive community. This is what our students recognize as a community of caring professionals who truly are inspired by helping them succeed. Are we doing our best on that right now? Can we do better? If we do not do better, what are the consequences? These are the questions I need your help in answering. Zoom and Teams and Google Voice and Moodle and all these other technologies, they're truly valuable. They serve an important purpose, but they do not create or sustain a community. It is you and me and all of us who create and sustain vital importance of human connection. Talking to someone on a screen over the phone that's not a bad thing, but it is not the same as being in someone's presence. It is not a community. If it were the same, none of us would choose to travel to see friends or family. None of us would get on an airplane. None of us would choose to invite loved ones into our homes to spend time together. And this is true for our students. While some still prefer distance modalities, many have contacted me and our board requesting in-person education. We also see this in students who show up on campus to enroll and seek services, many of them without an appointment, but with a drive to gain access to our life-changing offerings. To be successful, we must carefully but purposely move back to providing that community for our students and for each other. The ability to be together as a community sustains the health of that community. Now, no one knows how long it'll be until we're through the worst of this pandemic. What we do know, though, is we have implemented dozens of best practice safety protocols on our campus, and we are continuing to enhance sanitation with masking, screening, and other measures, including our requirement for vaccination or weekly testing. And like all public-facing institutions, we must also keep our eye on the goal. That goal is to be Henry Ford College for everyone who needs us. And being a community college, being a centerpiece of the community, being visible and active and vibrant means being present in the long term. It means having the majority of us physically present for our students, our visitors, and each other. Many of the students we are talking about, those who are underserved, have the hardest time succeeding in remote environments. They are the ones who have less access to technology at home. They are less likely to have private spaces to learn and study. And they traditionally have less access to high-quality education, leading to good jobs and better lives. Are we doing our best to give these students the greatest chances of success? Now, I've heard from many of you who truly say and believe that you can do your jobs from anywhere. Some of you have told me that you believe you are actually more effective working remotely. And I know most of us have had to learn to do our work in remote settings. But if we are really honest with each other, I think we'd admit that the distance of remote work has fractured some of our culture that we have been trying so hard to build with each other. We are less connected. And frankly, we're more burned out. Many of us see each other only in scheduled online meetings, and we tend to only see members of our own teams. This causes us to no longer run into each other, walking across campus, or in hallways, or in stairwells, or in break rooms. We don't have these one-on-one chats we used to have while waiting for a meeting to start, or grabbing a cup of coffee, or going to lunch at 5101. Many of you have shared with me your fatigue from online meetings, and goodness knows I feel it too. A full day of online meetings is more tiring than a full day of in-person meetings. Others have shared your sense of isolation. That is not what we are trying to create here at Henry Ford College. And it isn't just individuals. Our teams are less connected too. People have less of a sense of what is happening across our college. And this is not from a lack of trying to communicate. It is because we are separated from the community that sustains our connection. Even our successful students are showing this. Now, it's true, many of them have asked for continuing online classes this year, and more than half of our classes this semester are still remote. And nearly all of our student services are available online. It is good that we can answer that need for remote learning and remote services, and it is good that we now have the capabilities to deliver those services to students who need them. Those options and offerings are definitely here to stay. But in the long term, we need to see that our community wants to be together. As hard as we try to communicate that, we still see students drop in for services on campus. And that's not a bad thing. Most of our student surveys show a desire to return to in-person learning in the future. Your role at our college is important to other people. Your presence in this community matters. For each of us, the importance of our role is not just the job itself and whether that job can be performed in any specific location. Our college is bigger than any individual job, including my own. We're not just a collection of individuals performing distinct jobs in different places. We are not a corporation. We are a community And your presence builds and sustains that healthy community and a healthy community college. This college and me, we both need your best efforts. We all need each other to create the community that will help our students and our teammates succeed. The question we should ask ourselves is not whether we individually are able to function effectively in remote settings. No, the question should be whether we are an effective team in remote settings. Do we have the tangible and intangible elements of teamwork that drive everything we do towards student success? We have to start asking that question. And so I ask you to consider our college beyond this month and beyond this semester. I ask you to think about what it means to focus on supporting the people around you beyond your specific job. Let's make this college the first choice for every student and for every hardworking teammate. For this college to survive and to thrive, we need a healthy and engaged student body. And we need a healthy and engaged workforce that is inspired and cares about each other and is there for our students. This will include a mix of online and on-campus services and classes. And it will include a true team that builds a community right here in our Dearborn campuses. Before I turn our meeting over to my friend and colleague, the chair of the faculty organization, Tony Perry, I will be happy to chat with you and answer any questions you may have. It looks like we have about 18 minutes. And if you are okay with it, we will use the raise hand feature. And Vice President DeLong, if you see any hands, please help me call on those.
Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Good to see you all. And Russ, thank you for that well-rehearsed speech. That was
Coming from you, that means a lot.
quite a performance. Um, I have one little comment, or question. I mean, a comment and a question. While it seems that my the music majors are, I have a decent cohort that's coming to classes live. When I look at the more general class of history of rock and roll um, and music appreciation, uh, the enrollment um, of history of rock and roll, we reopened live sections as well as continued the remote sections, and there are 60 students enrolled in remote and 11 enrolled in live. Also, I have a colleague I know that was looking forward to returning to live teaching that was denied that actually because of the enrollment numbers. And so I'm curious what, other than anecdotal, what kind of figures you're finding or survey results you're finding that show that there is a large push from the students that they want to come back live, because I'm not really feeling that, except for the super motivated music majors. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Kevin. Happy New Year. The several points in response. The majority of the folks who are strongest about I want to return to campus have that access, and what you're experiencing in the classes you just mentioned is the case for this semester. That we have met the demand for in person, and it is less than what we hoped, and that demand seems to be shifting over to distance modalities like you just experienced. But I will say that those that want access to in person, and you describe this as anecdotal, and I would acknowledge it is anecdotal, are the people who are showing up on campus trying to get enrolled. And answering that demand is difficult because they want in-person service to get in-person classes from a campus that is not quite in person. But as to the more empirical information, what I'm referencing, Kevin, is the majority of students, despite saying in surveys that right now I want to take remote, like you're experiencing, the majority of them say I don't think it's as good as in person, and I want to get to in person when I feel better about it.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the wave that I see coming. That I believe, it's clear this pandemic has certainly put students on their heels, particularly the students that we serve. But whenever they get off their heels, they're going to want what they had before, which is what we were good at, which is that community of learning. And I want to make sure that we're ready to answer that. That's what I'm hoping we can focus on, frankly, for the next semester, so that we can pivot when the students are ready.
Thanks. And my second comment was on that community of learning concept. One of the things that I've really enjoyed about being a community college professor, as opposed to a university or other four-year college, is the fact that we get people walking in off the street that just want to take one class or two classes. That's the community part of our community college, which a lot of the public forgets that we are a community college since we removed the word community from our name. Once again, you'll notice that the word community, strength of community, is the first line in our school song. Also the fact that being a college in general, college is the idea for young people or old people and anyone in between to find themselves, to come to the college, to take a class or two to figure something out. And so, to be honest, I was dismayed with the part of your speech where you said we want to reduce the extra classes that are being taken, because the extra classes that students are taking are one of the hallmarks of a good community college, in my opinion. You don't need to respond to that. I just wanted to share it.
All right. Good to see you, Kevin. Thank you for your comment.
Hello, this is Lorena Benzik. Happy New Year to everybody, and I look forward to the start of a successful winter semester. My question is circling back to the federal mandate for either vaccination or testing. I am one of the adjunct faculty who is teaching completely remote. So I teach from my so-called office in my house. So for those of us who will not be interacting with the general student and faculty and other staff on campus, will we still be required to do weekly testing?
That's a good question. We've been talking about that. I trying to see if I've got my best colleague on this happens to be ill right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Dr. Nealon to jump in if I say something that's not accurate. But here's what I think is the right answer, Lorna. The first thing we try to do is follow what OSHA has said. Now, I know that brings up a lot of thoughts of, well, can you really even do that if you understand it, because it's being challenged in the federal courts? Hold that question aside, because frankly, the United States Supreme Court is debating that. But if OSHA were applicable, my understanding is that OSHA would say to the person in your scenario that the mandate does not apply because you're not in the workplace. But that also triggers the question of, can an employer still require it on their own volition for folks in your area? In your scenario. I think OSHA would allow that. We haven't made that decision yet. But my understanding of OSHA wouldn't require it for you, except for the opportunity or rare time where you would be on campus. Now, I don't know your work schedule nearly well enough to say whether there are random occasions, despite teaching fully online, that you would be on campus. But if you did have that random occasion, and if OSHA did apply, we would have to find a way to satisfy the testing requirement if you were not vaccinated. And the reason why we pushed really hard to try and get everyone to identify themselves as fully vaccinated, if that were the case, would be for folks like you in your teaching scenario who are vaccinated, where we wouldn't have to have this kind of analysis. Before I ask if that answers your question, I'll just give Dr. Nealon an opportunity to expound, or frankly, Dr. Nealon, correct me if I've slipped any of my information.
No, thank you, Russ. I do believe that you are accurate in the place that human resources and our return to campus team have landed on that for us. So Lorena, My understanding at this point would be if your entire teaching load is remote, that at this point in time, we would not be requiring testing. We are required, however, to record your vaccination status. That piece, which we had to do before the winter break, was an important step that, again, is a compliance issue. So that piece does need to happen.
Okay, I have already complied, and thank you for the answer.
Thank you. Yes.
Good to see you, Lorna. And then it's Richard and Hal.
Yeah, Russ, I work at out of Building E, Trade and Apprentice Groups. And I just wanted to share this, that we, you know, all my classes have been face-to-face all through the pandemic, even up till now. And what I do is I ask the students what they're best learning and talking to them, especially most of the apprentices through Fords and Chrysler and the different companies. And their feedback to me was they had a couple online classes, but they preferred the face-to-face, and they felt that they learned more with the face-to-face classes than they did with the online. Now that was in the trade and apprentice, and these guys are, you got to remember, they're typically a hands-on kind of group. And I wanted to share that that's what we've been doing all along.
Well, thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. It's you know, working face-to-face with students during a pandemic is what I would describe as frontline work, and I appreciate what you've done.
I would hope that when we move back to campus, when it's safe, that we do a very careful case-by-case study of who gets moved back, because if we're still interested in enrollment and revenue, I have never had better enrollment than when my courses have been asynchronous online. This semester is just absolutely gangbusters. I have, as of about an hour ago, I have 9 vacant seats in my 6 classes, not 9 in each section, 9 total. I have not had enrollment like that in years, probably since about 2013 or 2014. I've never had face-to-face enrollment like that. So I hope, contrary to what we've done at times in the history of this institution, where I've been for 26 years now, I hope we do a real careful case-by-case study and don't just do a one-size-fits-all, you're coming back to campus, because the history programs never had, what's left of the history program has never had better enrollment than this. I would also hope that, or suggest that instead of trying to get us back to campus, we put our efforts into educating the Dearborn population that this is the age of information technology, and that if the parking lot is half empty, it does not mean we are not doing our jobs or at work. That is another problem that I have seen for 26 years. Dearborn and Wayne County still haven't made the transition to globalization, and we need to put our efforts into educating them about how education is delivered and how work is done, and it's changing. And Dearborn and Wayne County are going to need to change along with it. Well, I've spoken my piece.
Well, thank you, Hal. I appreciate it. Let me just make one comment on your first comment, and it is that congratulations on the enrollment. I'm glad to hear that. And it was because of the faculty and the academic affairs leadership team that we were able to shift so many classes to distance modality. And it was from people like you doing that hard work. And I'm glad it's paying off. And I have no intention of taking that away, that victory, the victory of moving classes to a different modality to serve students that in your instance gave more enrollment and gave an opportunity to serve more students. I'm not suggesting in any way that we want to take that away. And I appreciate what you and all your colleagues in the faculty did to make that a reality in frankly, the flip of a coin. So congratulations on that.
I've taught at Henry Ford for 40 years, and I've always taught in person until the COVID pandemic. And recently I had a setback because I tested positive for COVID, and I'm scheduled to go back to classes on Monday, the 10th. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm on medication, and I'm seeing my doctor actually tomorrow. So I will be tested again. But now I'm worried because if my test comes back that I'm still positive, even though I'm taking medication and I'm on quarantine since last Friday, if this is going to affect my class, it will be taken away from me, which I don't want it to be.
Yeah, well, have you communicated with the associate dean or the dean? And if you haven't, please do that, because I'm sure they'll have an idea to help you through that. And you look like you're well, and I'm glad to see that. I hope that continues.
Thank you.
Nala.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Kavalhuna, and Happy New Year to you and everybody here. You brought up a good point that you made today about student liking to be on campus. I personally chose to teach on campus. I teach the upper level mathematics, and last semester I did that. And definitely the student appreciate the fact that we are, interacting, we are in the classroom. They see us, we see them. That's definitely working for them being in the classroom, in my experience. However, moving forward with this semester, as you can see, the cases are rising everywhere. People need to be tested more. And unfortunately, the testing line is so long, taking so long for. So are you going to do anything to provide better, quicker testing for us as we don't disrupt too much our classes, because it takes time. I know family members of mine that have been waiting for 4 hours, 5 hours to get tested. And the rapid test came in negative, but their PCR came in positive 48 hours later. So given all this situation we're in, do you have any plan for us? Because we'd love to stay with our students. I definitely don't want to cause disruption to them either. So do you have anything in place for us that we could either quickly get tested or in a place where we can go, anything that would cause less disruption? That's my question.
Yeah, the short answer is unfortunately no. And I feel this acutely because in my own family, I have 2 children who are elementary school age, and we had to make this decision less than a week ago because they started school this week in Dearborn in person. And I was with a person at a restaurant who later tested positive, and I had to try and figure out what my obligations were. And I went through our form and tried to figure out what the answers were there. And I called HR, and I found it to be very, very useful. Tiffany Webster is fantastic in answering the questions. And, there's an innumerable amount of mutations and permutations of questions that we can come up with. In fact, we thought about changing the form, but we decided to keep it the same way because what we're hoping is that people who are sick or are not sure if they were exposed will communicate to us and help us judge whether they should be on campus or not. And I'll, just in my own instance, for me as an employee and I'm on campus right now, that works pretty well. I frankly didn't know if I should be on campus or not, and I was glad to get the education I did from the Human Resources Department. As it related to my children, we did the same thing with the public school district, and they helped us conclude that our kids were not needed to be out. But because we wanted to be super careful, we went looking for tests, and it was difficult, as you're mentioning. The President of the United States has essentially admitted that they are behind the curve on that front. It looks like I see Chelsea saying U of M Dearborn has on-campus testing and vaccination center for students. So at this point, what I would say is the nation is struggling with testing. And I know acutely what that feels like.
No one's ever accused me of not being on message. So I think I'm going to frustrate you a little bit, Russ, with this. But part of community is caring for the health and safety of one another. And I know something that would make me personally safer, and I think a number of 1650 members safer, is if all the community had the same vaccine requirements or testing requirements. So if we could say that students also should be vaccinated on campus or should also be regularly tested. Now, I do hear what you're saying about that right this second, testing can't happen because of the number of tests, but we do have time to plan for the summer or the fall to make this happen. And I think, you know, a lot of people would be more comfortable. I would be. I wish I was still 30 or 40, but I'm not. If I get COVID, there is an increased risk for me. So I think that's something that we need to think about in the long term. Can all members of the community be vaccinated or tested?
Well, Jeff, are you speaking as Jeff Morford or as the acting president of 1650?
I am speaking as you could tell, I was speaking mostly as myself, but I do hear from my membership, and I think my membership would like this. I see a number of people nodding. If I go over and read in the chat, I'll probably find a number of people who've said something different, right? We're not a monolith, but more people that I hear from than not would like to be on campus, and they would feel more comfortable on campus if they knew they could be safe.
Yeah,
And-
I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. The only reason I asked which voice you're speaking with is because as the acting president, I am in receipt of the letter that former Vice President Claiborne sent me on this issue. And I have invited the 1650 leadership to meet with me and discuss this issue. If you were speaking on behalf, and it sounds like at least in some regards you are, on behalf of 1650, I'm more than happy to sit and talk with you about this.
We will meet on January 10th with our executive board, and I expect as a result of that meeting, we plan to take you up on that offer.
Okay, good. Well, I stand ready to meet and on all the issues that Vice President Claiborne brought up. To the extent you're speaking just on behalf of your own position as an employee, I hear you. I understand you. I wish I had a different answer for you from the previous times we've discussed it, but let's sit down with the collective bargaining unit leadership, which is also you, and let's continue the discussion.
Good morning. Jeff, thank you for those comments. That actually wasn't what I was initially going to talk about, but I do think that that message has come through, not only through people that discussed the issue that generated the letter from Chardon, but also through the First Friday discussion, where people from multiple bargaining units mentioned that concern. So I would hope as well that that would be pursued. What I really wanted to talk about was in response to now I've lost her picture, Mary Jo, I think, her comment about being unsure what to do as an instructor. What I found last semester, where I did teach one class on campus, we were all kind of shooting from the hip about how to handle our own statuses and about how to manage students who reported that they were positive or that they were sick. I know that I personally, brought my laptop to class and put those students on Zoom, which was an imperfect solution, but at least a little bit of a solution that allowed them to keep with us. But I do think that having some sort of formal protocol for faculty and maybe a little bit more clear for students as well would be helpful. And I think that communicating the faculty protocol to students would also be helpful. Here's what's going to happen when and when your instructor becomes sick or tests positive. Expect this to happen. I think that would be really, really helpful, not only to instructors, but also to students.
Yeah, the last thing you just said made me realize I wasn't understanding you for most of what you're saying, Betsy. What I think I picked up right at the end was that the protocol that needs to be clarified and communicated would be to students about what would happen if instructor Cohn couldn't teach anymore as a result of positive. Is that right?
Communicating that not only to students, here's what would happen if your instructor tested positive or was in quarantine or whatever, not only communicating that to students, but also communicating it to to us as instructors, that so that we have a common response across the board, and so that instructors aren't kind of giving it their best shot.
Yeah, okay. I did misunderstand what you're saying until the very end, and now I am clear on it. The answer is yes. We can make that more clear, and I've got some ideas about how we could communicate that out more clearly so that Mary Jane and you from previous semester are not faced with that lack of clarity. I've got some ideas about it, but clearly, if you're guessing, then we got to find a way for you not to have to guess. Or if you guess, you can do what we would ordinarily do, which is Google something and try and find direction. So I will get that done.
Okay, great. Mary Jane, I'm sorry for calling you Mary Jo.
Hello, my question is kind of similar to Betsy's, very specific though, because of the recent change of quarantine to 5 instead of 10 days for those who have no symptoms, all the details about that. And I heard the states actually recently changed from 10 to 5 also. They were slower to respond, but will we be making changes? And just in general, any changes, can we please be informed how students are going to be, what students are being told so that we can appropriately respond and work with them to help them make up work that's missed?
Yeah, so I think what would be a good thing for us to do is to work with Betsy's request and yours, Janine, and find a place that we can easily direct all of you and your colleagues to maybe a frequently asked questions or process for this, and I'll get that done.
But any idea about the 5-day?
Oh, you know what? Candidly, I have to admit to you, I'm not at the tip of the spear on
Okay, no problem.
Quarantining. In fact, that's why I had to call HR myself first to see if I was exposed, and then second, how long I would have to be. I'll make sure that that's answered there.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Mary Jane and then Dr. Hosseini.
Well, I received 2 Moderna vaccinations and also the flu shot in November. And so I was shocked that I was tested positive for COVID. But in the meantime, I've talked to friends, relatives that they have not seen. Most of the ones that are coming down with COVID, testing positive for COVID, are people that have been vaccinated, which kind of scares me. And so I just wanted to put that out there too. And I'm getting tested from my doctor's office. So I should find out something by Friday, hopefully, because my class starts on Monday. And another point that I would like to make is with remote learning, I think it should be mandatory that all students should have their videos on for the entire class. I was told that I could not say that except when I was giving quizzes and exams. And I think that would also have been better for the students, because sometimes I'd see them in bed, whatever, sleeping. In fact, at one time I had to actually wake up a student sleeping. He started to sleep during my exam.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for bringing the community together. I'm just going to guess my question is 2 parts. When I'm teaching online 100%, I have a lot of students send me, for instance, they have a COVID, they cannot finish their homework. I try to extend it. I just feel there is a lack of maybe where we have the names of any students who has a COVID. Maybe we need to have a data. I teach at another school, and we have what we call somebody send it to us. Like if I have a student who had a COVID and they found out from any other professors, they have a data, they send it to me. This way I will know if I have a contact with that student. And I don't see that at Henry Ford College. A second thing, what I'm concerned with, and I might missed it, I do apologize. Like I'm teaching online, but our mathematics department required for us to do like 2 exams, one of them the final in persons. How we are gonna go ahead and make sure the student who comes only these 2 times, that they do not have a COVID or something like that to affect myself, and my other students. Thank you so much, Russ.
Yeah, Hassan, I'll say on the first question, we do have contact tracing protocols, and if those protocols triggered a notice to you that you were in vicinity of someone and exposed, you would be contacted. And then second, I think I understand your concern. I'm going to let Dr. Nealon jump in if he chooses. But if you have students who would have to come in to campus for any reason, whether it's for a partial face-to-face class for any reason, they have to fill out the screening form, and that is also one of the ways we trigger contact tracing analysis. Let's see, Michael, did you want to make a comment on that?
No, President Kavalhuna is absolutely correct. And Hassan, the student would have to be reporting on the screening tool. And if they get a red X, sadly, even if it's for coming on campus to take their final exam, they should not be coming on campus. And so we would want to work with that student and the faculty member to find an alternative means that they might be successful in completing the class.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Because she's my friend and I see her so often, I'm gonna give Rama the last question.
Thank you, President Kavalhuna. Happy New Year's to everybody. I do agree that in-person works really well for the students. I strongly believe in that, but also worried about, at this time, I have never been an online teacher until COVID occurred because I connect better with students in person. But I'm worried about getting the students infected or their family infected. We don't absolutely have social distancing possibility in the class. For the future, that is something I would really like us to consider. I don't know if that means we are trained to go high flex or whatever it takes. That's why I am online. I'm an in-person teacher, but I'm doing online because of that. I miss that. And I do want to tell Dr. Husseini that students are very good at filling the form as long as you remind them and check them before you let them in the class, and provide an alternate day for them to do the makeup exam. I do it at the end of the semester for all the students who miss the exam. Thank you so much. Sorry for taking the time.
Okay, thank you, Rama. That topic that you brought up is also one that erstwhile Vice President Claiborne has brought to our attention. And I know you have brought that to our attention. And it sounds like Local 1650 will contemplate meeting with the administration on that. And it would be on the topic list if I were in control of that list. But of course, you know, that setting the agenda for that type of meeting is a mutual process. I'm quite sure that it'll be on the list. All right. Before I bid you adieu, I'll just say I appreciate that you all have concerns. I see that. I also understand and appreciate that some of the decisions I'm making are not what you would do. And Acting President Morford said that he was going to annoy me, and I just want to say very clearly, it does not annoy me. It is the function of a well-functioning institution for someone to ask me or say, Russ, I think you're making a mistake. That is okay. It's completely appropriate. I'm trying my very best to give you the best answers I can and make the best decisions. And part of that process is hearing from you when you think I'm not doing just that. So please understand, you're welcome to tell me whenever you think I'm missing the mark. I will always listen. I can't promise I'll always agree. I'll try to explain why I can't, if I can't agree. But I appreciate you doing what you're doing, which is operating in this strange time where there's more questions than answers. It's just difficult. And I'm sorry, I wish I could make it better. But I see that you're doing as best as you can. And I appreciate that very, very much. And I see it and hear it from our students. I ask you to do it again. And I'm sorry that's a tall order, but please keep it going. And I'll try to do the same for you. Dr. Perry, you're going to meet with the faculty org. I've asked for about 5 minutes at the top of that meeting if you're willing to give it. And for those of you that don't want to participate in the faculty org, I wish you the best for this semester.